With the character set up on the controller, we want to go ahead and start looking at how we do the script side of it to create some movement with the character. So let's go ahead and go back to our scripting editor. We've got, at the moment, we have just the elements to bring up an animation. So if we were looking at this from scratch, so again, I'm just trying to think of this as a first time through. If I was trying to consider how I'm going to move a character controller, well, if a character controller is part of the physics system, then there's a good chance there's something about scripting inside the scripting reference on it. So if we go up to our help and we go down to the scripting reference, if you click on that, what we're going to wind up getting is a page that actually has the scripting overview. Now, what I want to do is just go to the search, and I'm going to just type in character controller. And we'll see if anything comes up with character controller. Now, from the looks of it, we actually get several options here. We have a character controller, and then there's lots of options in here, whether they're variables or function calls, but we have one that's just character controller. So go ahead and click on it. Alright, the character controller, if I'm looking at this for the first time, I'm looking at this, so I haven't looked at any other Unity tutorials or any of the setup files or nothing. I'm just trying to explore this for the first time through. One option would be just to read through this. The other is to go to the manual or reference and look at how they've used it as well. But for the character controller, it shows that it's easy. It allows you to easily do movement constrained by collisions without having to deal with a rigid body. Okay, well, that sounds pretty good. We can also see a character controller component. If we click on it, it's going to take us to the reference. So it's going to show us that it's being used and it has been used before. If we go back to here, we can also see character animation examples, which takes you to the Unity resource site, showing you their example parts for the character animation system here, and I think this one shows it here as well. Alright, so we'll go ahead and go back to here. So on this one, for the character controller, this is a part, again, when I'm looking at it for the first time through, I'm going to read through all of these. I'm going to read through all the definitions. I'm not going to just go to the one that I need, but I want to make sure that I'm like fully aware of everything available to me in the character controller. So going through all of these, it gives me a really good idea as to what's available to me. The one that sticks out, though, are the function calls. We've got a simple move and we've got a move. So the simple move says moves the character with speed, okay? The move says a more complex move function taking absolute movement deltas. Well, let's take a look at both of these. Okay, so we look at this, and the code that's behind this one, they provide an example. So they actually show that the character on this one, the velocity along the y-axis is ignored, the speed is in meters, gravity is automatically applied. Alright, so let's go ahead and investigate here for a moment. We'll go ahead and just copy this part. So if we take this one, this is good for when you start doing the script and you need to make sure that people keep it. If it's not on there, it'll let you know. So if I copy this, and we'll jump back into our script editor, and on this side of it, let's go ahead and just take just a simple way of doing this one is that we'll comment out this area right here, and then we'll just go ahead and code inside the update function. Actually, let's double check what they've got. Yeah. We'll just drop this inside the update function. Alright. So what we should have on this part, we'll have, oh, there it is. Okay. So we'll take, yep, looks like I've got a little bit extra here. So we'll take this one, and we'll just comment all of this out then. Okay. So the only thing that we'll have inside of here is going to be the update. Oops. We'll have the update here, and inside of it. Alright. So we have our two variables, a speed and a rotate speed. And inside the update function, we have a controller, variable controller. Now, we're setting its type to the character controller, and then we're making it equal to a get component character controller. Okay, so this get component means that we have to have a character controller assigned to the character, and that's what we actually assigned, was a character controller right there. Okay, so inside of it, it's showing that we have a rotate around y-axis. All right, they're saying that we're going to do a transform rotate, and it's going to have the it's going to be moving on not the x but the y-axis at the rotate speed. And then we have a move forward and a move backward, which is based on those two options right there. And then we have a get axis, which we'll take a look at here in a little bit. This is going to allow us not only move a mouse or a keyboard, but allows us to also use a joystick as well. And then we have a controller, which remember was assigned up here. Controller.simpleMove. Then forward times current speed. Okay, so there's a lot of new code here. We're going to take a look at it in a second in terms of how it works and all that when we start developing our own. But just to quickly see whether or not what we have here is even going to work on a character. If I take this and I push play, and then I take a look when it plays through, I'll notice that the character all of a sudden dropped down. So there was an automatic gravity applied to the character. But then also, if I actually start to use the left and right, I can actually rotate the game controller object here. So it's going to rotate it left and right. And then if I actually go left and right with it on movement, it moves it left and right. So for instance, on this one, here we'll go ahead and play this again. If I don't rotate it left and right, here, I'll rotate it here so you can see it. If I just move it up and down inside the game, the player is going to actually move left and right that way. If I rotate it, say for instance here, we'll rotate so you can see it, rotate it this way and I start to move it, I can move the character back and forth. Okay, so if you want to be able to move it, very simple movement, allows us to move the character where it needs to be. Alright, so let's go ahead and try the other one here. Let's go back to our scripting reference guide, and we'll go back to the move option here. And on the move one, let's do the same thing, just copy and paste this code. We'll go ahead and just delete this one. Let's see, we'll grab that. And let's go ahead and save this out again. Then jump back into the game, and we'll play it. Alright. So again, we have movement, but this time we don't have rotation. So be sure you're trying it on your own character. The left and right arrows only move forward and backward. And then the up and down arrow move left and move into the screen and out of the screen. Okay. Now, if I get off of my collision box that's here, this is the reason. If you're curious, this is the reason why the character's falling off. Is that if I get off of my collision box, he falls off. All right, and then the gravity is applied, forcing the character down. So we have a basic movement for the character at the moment. So for instance, if we were to look at this full screen, I could actually move the character left and right. It would appear as though the character is moving on top of the block with the collision boxes. And then you have your basic control. If you have a joystick in front of you, let's see, I don't know if the joystick is set to this one. Yeah, actually you could. If you had the joystick on, you could actually move it left and right and be able to control that part as well. Alright, so we have our basic control set up for being able to move left and right on the screen. Now, as a first-time person, if you're an artist, you're a designer with, again, with just the scripting experience that you've had through the video so far, this is all going to be kind of new scripting area for you. It's going to be new words and new things that you have to kind of look at. Now, some of these you've done before, but just kind of remember that when you get into a new area, you're going to have to spend some time and just reinvestigate, really understand the character controller, really remind yourself if you haven't done getting components in a while, how to get components. We're going to do a lot of that while we work through the Mario tutorial. But for this one, again, if we have this, we'll notice that this time we have a gravity, which is actually allowing us to choose the level of gravity we have. If I was to play this and click on the character, inside our inspector we have that gravity option there. Well, if I was to take gravity to 0, and then move my character left and right, I can move him left and right here. Oh, looks like we're going to have at least one on here. There we go. So we can move him left and right through here, but he's going to fall at a slower pace. So as long as you change the gravity, if I wanted to change the gravity and make him fly upwards instead, we'll make him go this way. Alright. Then he actually, notice the numbers up here, he's actually going upwards at the moment, and upward being somewhere up there. Alright, so we have our character player that we can actually use this way. Now, the next thing that we want to do, Go back to our character. Next thing we want to do, though, is determine which one we really want to use. If we want to use the system, then we can kind of look through and go, does this really provide us what we want? We have an option to jump. Again, if you didn't try the jump option, you can just push the space bar. You'll notice the character has the ability to jump. If the character is jumping, try jumping and moving at the same time. If I jump in the air and I push the arrow keys, he doesn't move at all. If I run and jump, I can't actually pull him back while he's coming down. He has one direction, and then once he starts in that direction, he continues until he lands back on the ground. So there's a little bit of, at least based on like a Mario-style character, a little bit of an issue with the jump system. But for the movement left and right, that provides us what we basically want in that area. Alright, so let's go ahead and start off with this as kind of our basis, and we're going to create from this code, and we'll kind of use it here and there until we create our own system, but we'll start off with this one. Alright, so the next tutorial, get ready to start writing some code on the character controller.